Hey everybody. Well, I've come to a point in the build here where I'm going to want to add yellow details on all these little booster areas of the back skirt. Now, like I've shown before, I can take blue tack and I can line it up around the edges just precisely enough to give me just the right edge I want. And then for the rest of the part, I just use standard masking tape because that's a lot easier. But then, after I've done all that, I'm going to want to mount this part on a skewer for painting. Now, in the past I've used blue tack as a mounting substance, and it's worked pretty well up until now. But with the size and potential weight of a part like this, if you don't attach it in the right area, you're going to find that the part will start to drag down like that over time. So what I'm going to do is find a much more secure way of attaching the part on the back side here. And I figured now is a good time to sort of demonstrate how I use these alligator clips that I picked up for myself recently. Basically, if you'll notice the holes down there on the bottom, you will see that I can insert the pointed end of a skewer in there. And just by jamming it in there with enough force, friction will hold it on well enough. Although, if the skewers you are using are just a tad too small, you can add tape and wrap it around for added security. Or if you find that the skewers are too big, you can shave them down until they fit. Or if the skewers are way too small, just use some kind of strong pair of pliers and crimp down on the edge of this clamp here until it attaches much more securely to the skewer you're using. But anyway, once that's all said and done, you want to examine the back side of whatever part you're going to spray and look for a good solid anchoring point. Now my gut reaction would be to apply it onto this area here, and that's because it's at the center of gravity here, and there's a hole here where the clip can insert into. And it works. It works alright. It's at the center and it's easy to manipulate, but it's not a very secure fit, as you can sort of see. A little touch and it falls right off. So I'm looking for something a little stronger. And I found these bars down here are perfect. There's enough area for the teeth of the clamp to attach onto, and it's fit snugly up against this wall edge here. So this means that it's going to be very snug, and it's still very close to the center of balance. So it's really no more complicated than that. And then all you got to do is prime it, paint it, and give it a top coat. And of course, I've shown this all before, but I use Krylon white primer. And primer, like I've said before, helps paint stick to the plastic and help control the color. You can get white primer, gray primer, black primer, and even some kind of red primer. And they all have different color advantages. Then I use this Bawas Gold glossy Krylon paint, and this is good for the booster color that I am going to be adding. And then to protect that coat of paint, I use a Krylon Gloss Clear top coat, just to protect it and give it a nice shine. And one last tip revolving this whole setup here is when you're spraying it, invariably you're going to be getting some kind of paint on you. And, well, that's fine and all, but some people use latex gloves to protect their hands. I used to be one of them. But I found that latex gloves create some problems. Like when you're trying to turn and twist, you find the edges of the gloves rubbing together and sort of wrinkling up and creating problems. And they're just a pain in the butt to get on and off and everything. and they're kind of a waste. You spend a lot of money just using pair after pair. But I found a very cheap, easy alternative. Get yourself a paper towel. Rest your arm inside of it. Find an area where your fingers are and leave about a good few inches in front of you. Then take your skewer, poke a hole through the paper towel so that you can hold the skewer from the bottom, and use this paper towel as a spray guard for your arm and hand. It gives a lot more coverage than just a latex glove, and it's much easier to come by, easier to use, set up, everything. And you don't have to worry about gloves wrinkling up while you're turning the part here. It's just your fingers, so that's not an issue. And I figured this would be a nice simple tip for all the lazy, stingy Gundam modelers out there, just like me. Now I figured I would go ahead and show you guys something about this arm. Or more specifically, more about this connection point at the shoulder. If I take this apart, you'll see more what I'm talking about. And it's more about this. Now, what I'm talking about is I've noticed that with the arm, the saber here and then the shield on this arm create a lot of weight for this connection point to hold. And as I was trying to attach it and such, I noticed that the arm was starting to sag down like that. So here's what I did to improve the joints. I inserted some blue tack down in this little hole area where the peg of the poly cap goes into. And that's the point at which the arm pivots at the shoulder. And so by putting blue tack in there, you're adding some form of friction and a better, more snug fit between the poly cap and this part here. And I've done it on both sides where it attaches on here as well. Anyway, this is a simple way of adding strength to certain joints that are inadequate on their own. Then all you gotta do is put it back together and it's as good as new. Even better, in fact. I hate these things.